Have you ever experienced this? You do everything right. You are present, you respond quickly, you show interest, you listen, you support, you compliment, and suddenly she cools down. She distances herself. She starts to respond with less enthusiasm. And you, without understanding anything, ask yourself, what did I do wrong? The answer is simple but brutal. You played the open game, while she plays the hidden one. It's not that she's bad. It's just that there's a silent code, a set of unspoken rules that they follow but never admit. And when you break these rules, even with the best of intentions, you lose value without even realizing it. And that's where Machiavelli comes in. Niccolo Machiavelli did not speak of romanticism. He spoke of power, of influence, of perception. And what he said about politics applies perfectly to the social game that takes place between men and women. The man who focuses on what he should be, instead of understanding what he really is setting himself up for a fall. And what is reality? The reality is that the more predictable you are, the less impact you make. The more you give yourself away without being invited, the faster she loses interest. The more you try to please, the more you negotiate your essence. But nobody taught you that. They taught you that to love is to give yourself, that to be a man is to always be available, that to conquer is to prove all the time that you are different from others. But then life comes, long, and rubs the truth in your face. She respects the man who takes a stand, not the one who bows. And no, she will never tell you that, because to admit it is to contradict everything she herself consciously believes. She will say she wants attention, but if you give too much, it becomes a burden. You'll say you want honesty, but if you open up too soon, you become predictable. She will say that she wants security, but she only feels desire for those she cannot control. This is the silent paradox, and that's why so many men live lost between being a good partner and being seen as bland. You don't have to choose between being respected and being emotional. You need to learn the game and play it like a strategist. Machiavelli did not teach how to shout. He taught how to observe, how to act at the right time, how to make an impact with presence, not with promises. True power does not beg, does not justify, does not bow. And that's not manipulation, it's lucidity. It's understanding that if you keep trying to win someone over based on what they says, whatever you want, you will continue to lose to those who understand what Shirley responds. Because deep down, she will never admit it. But she feels a visceral attraction to those who carry mystery, for those who master their own time, for those who are absent when necessary and do not fall apart in the face of silence. This is the new way, the path of emotional mastery, of silent influence, of the man who doesn't run after, but attracts with presence. So if you're ready to stop living like a piece and start playing like a strategist, stay until the end. Because now you will learn Machiavelli's 5 secret rules, the ones that work with surgical precision, even if she'll never admit it. Do you want to know what really works with a woman? Not what she says she wants, but what deep down triggers desire, respect, and silent admiration. Because there is a huge difference between what she says and what she responds with her body, her gaze, and her behavior. And no matter how much she denies, disagrees, or gets irritated by this truth, there are silent rules that govern the game. Machiavellian rules that, when applied, change everything, even if she will never admit it. The first one is simple but powerful. Be calm when she expects a storm. Every woman, consciously or unconsciously, tests. She provokes, stresses, challenges, not out of malice, but because she wants to know. How far will this man go? Is he strong or just kind? Most men react. They try to explain, resolve, defend. Result, she dominates the emotional and loses respect. Now, when you stay centered, when you look her in the eye calmly while she tries to destabilize you, you show power. You show that not just any wind can blow you away. Machiavelli said, power lies in not responding to chaos, but in shaping it. And that's it. If you react, you become predictable. If you observe, you dominate. What you don't react to cannot be controlled. The second rule is brutal. Value is what you don't give away for free. It seems nice to be 100% available, to show unlimited interest, to say everything you feel on the first date. But in practice, the easier you give yourself, the less she values it. The human mind works like this. What requires effort generates attachment. What comes easy goes easy. And she will never admit this. She will say she wants transparency, that she wants someone present. But unconsciously, she only respects what she has to earn. Machiavelli already taught, he who gives himself completely before being asked buries himself in irrelevance. When you start giving yourself without her having invested, you nullify yourself. And what nullifies itself loses strength. The third rule is subtle but definitive. The game is in the subtext, not the words. You feel like you need to say you're different, to prove you're trustworthy, to explain that you're a good man. But when you try to sell yourself too much, she reads you as insecure. Because the real impact isn't in what you say, it's in what you convey, in your posture, in your silence, in the steadiness of your gaze. As Machiavelli said, don't tell her who you are, make her feel it. The power lies in what's unsaid, in what you don't have to explain. Being a controlled mystery is infinitely more seductive than being an open book with no filter. The fourth rule is what separates men who are admired from those who are used. Have other kingdoms besides hers. Nothing weakens a man more than putting a woman at the center of his world. She may even ask for it. But if you do, she loses interest. Why? Because a man who abandons his own mission to follow her emotional whims conveys dependence. And dependence is the opposite of desire. Machiavelli knew this. He who masters his own life will never be held hostage by someone else's. You need to have projects, goals, a routine, ambition. You need to show that your life is rich, with or without her, and that is precisely what makes her want to be a part of it. Finally, the fifth rule is the most misunderstood, but perhaps the most powerful. Disappearing is an art, not an end. Well-placed silence, absence with dignity, has more impact than any speech. When you disappear, not to punish but to preserve yourself, you show strength. It shows that you do not beg, do not run after validation, and she feels it. She misses you. She feels the echo of your absence. Machiavelli said, a strategically calculated absence is worth 1,000 words. After a friction, a lack of respect, or even a doubt, the best response is often nothing. The man who knows how to leave without drama returns with more respect, or returns to himself more whole. These are the 5 rules. They are not magic formulas. They are hidden, silent, almost forbidden truths. But they are the ones that work, because they touch the instinct, because they speak to the unconscious, and because, deep down, even though she never says it, she recognizes the value of the man who imposes himself in silence and never gives up before being respected. There comes a point where the game is no longer about winning someone over. It's about not losing yourself in the process. Because the most tragic mistake a man can make, and most do, is not being rejected. The real mistake is being accepted for a distorted, edited, fragmented version of yourself. You don't notice it at first. It gradually takes shape. Stop saying certain things so you don't seem too intense. Avoid showing strong opinions so as not to scare people. Say yes when you mean no. Smile to keep the peace. It adapts, it diminishes, it cancels itself out. And in the end, what's left? A man decorated inside. Like a cell that you decorate with flowers, but which is still a prison. All this out of fear of loneliness. This is where many men go wrong. They don't want to be alone anymore, so they trade their essence for company. They trade dignity in exchange for presence. They become lovable but forgettable, present but never desired, and worse, they are accepted but not respected. Machiavelli, if he observed this scene, would say with strategic coldness, "The man who begs for acceptance has already lost his crown before he sits on it. And do you know what's cruelest? She feels like you're trying too hard, that you're too dependent, that you need her more than you should. And what starts as love becomes a burden, What was interest becomes pity, and what was desire turns into silence. Respect dies on the altar of submission. There's no point in being good if your kindness comes from insecurity. There is no point in being present if your presence comes from fear. There's no point in giving yourself if deep down you're trying to buy something in return. She may not even be able to explain why, but it will move away. And then, in desperation, you try to fix it. Explains too much. Go after it. Try to prove that you are enough. And the more she tries, the more she loses the image she had of you, because the man who explains his dignity too much has already lost it. Dignity is not shouted. Dignity is imposed. In silence. Do you want to be respected? So understand one thing. Respect is not born from what you deliver, but from what you never negotiate. It's your firmness in saying no calmly. It's their silence when they expect screams. It is your absence when there is disrespect. It's your ability to gracefully withdraw, rather than begging for presence. That is true power. It's not about dominating her. It is to master yourself. Because the man who is held hostage by the desire to be accepted will be shaped by fear. And the man shaped by fear does not lead, does not attract, does not remain. You may be the perfect man on the surface, but if it's not whole inside, she feels it. And the tragic thing is this: you will be forgotten not for lack of effort, but due to over-adaptation. She will remember the one who imposed himself, the one who made her rethink her words, from the one who knew how to leave without screaming, of the one who, even feeling, did not bend. Respect, my friend, is born from the contrast between what is seen and what is not understood. It is born from the clarity with which you live your truth, and it dies the moment you sacrifice your essence for emotional crumbs. Explaining your dignity to someone who can't see it is like throwing pearls before swine. And maybe that's the turning point. Stop begging for understanding. Stop wanting to be accepted at any cost, and finally understand. You are not here to please. You are here to be whole. The man who lives aligned with his truth can even walk alone, but he walks with honor. And one day she might understand. Maybe not. But you will remember that you chose yourself, and that choice makes you unforgettable. In the end, it all comes down to a choice. Either you live trying to be accepted, or you learn to be remembered. The difference between the man who passes and the man who scores lies in something that cannot be bought, forced, or begged for: presence. The presence of a man who does not adapt to the mood of others, who does not bend to be loved, who does not negotiate principles to keep company. This man, no matter how much she says he's too difficult, too cold, too intense, is the one who stays in her mind when the others have become noise. Because in the end, she forgets what you gave her, forget what you said, but she never forgets how you asserted yourself. Do you want to be unforgettable? So learn. The man who lives adapting is comfortable, but disposable. She may even stay for a while, but she will leave lightly. Now the one that made her rethink every attitude, every word, every silence, that one she carries forever. And it's not because he was aggressive, it's because he was firm. It's not because he manipulated, it's because he showed. The rarity of someone who knows their own worth. Machiavelli never taught coldness, he taught lucidity. He knew that the world respects those who act with strategy, not with need. That admiration is born from contrast, from the balance between proximity and limit, between intensity and containment. That true power is not in being loved by everyone, but in being respected by those who matter. You don't need everyone's approval. You need the respect of those who are able to see. And if you're going to lose someone, let it be for being whole. Because the man who walks with his truth is never truly alone. He is aligned with the destiny that respects who he truly is. This is the turning point. It's not about winning the emotional game through empty tactics, but to become the kind of man who doesn't have to shout to be heard, who doesn't have to hide to be loved, who doesn't have to bend to be remembered. The unforgettable man is not the one who pleased the most. It's what remained, standing, even when the easiest thing to do would have been to bow down. And if this message touched you, share it with those who need to hear it. because together we can free a generation of men who are tired of living with masks. And they want, once and for all, to be truly respected.